Today we'll be covering SharePoint to Clarity integration. First, I want to start off by why we actually design these. And the main reason we actually design these products is to increase productivity and performance for your enterprise. So, to allow C-level executives or high-level executives to actually see Clarity-related data or PPM-related data that's not necessarily available, or they might not want to navigate through Clarity to actually be able to find the data that they actually need from their PPM. A lot of people find that Clarity being such a huge tool, it can be daunting for a lot of people if they're not familiar with the navigation of it at all times. Basically, what this slide has is basically provides what the actual value is. So, we believe that the best way to provide solutions is to provide us synergistic services and software. The PPM, docBoss, and portletBoss provide enterprise visibility to projects via Microsoft SharePoint and help realize the full potential of your PPM universe. It's a system to provide Clarity PPM clients exactly what they need to attain, refine, consume, and then finally to be mobile. These products basically have a low TCO, total cost of ownership. They're easy to implement into your existing Clarity and your existing SharePoint environment. They leverage SharePoint's familiar, easy-to-use web interface. You'll find it quicker, easier to manage project documentation and blogs for team collaboration, and they're automatically mapped from Clarity to SharePoint, giving you full collaboration and team rights. You'll be able to take advantage of full dynamic and customizable PPM KPI reports in SharePoint, SharePoint Clarity dashboards and portlets. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get started with the actual demo because we've got quite a bit of stuff to cover. So I'm going to open up Clarity environment here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started. I'm going to get started by creating a new project. So and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the page layout here to be of our document boss. Now what that page layout actually does is it provides us a new tab that automatically links us into SharePoint. So when I click on this particular tab, what it's doing is it connects to SharePoint, and then SharePoint comes back and says, does this particular project exist inside of SharePoint? If it doesn't exist, what it's going to do is it's actually going to create a site and automatically map that particular site from SharePoint inside of Clarity. So whenever we're inside of this project, we're always going to be inside of this SharePoint site. So it does a couple of things. Not only does it create the site, it actually comes back and grabs your team members and your project manager and gives them rights to this particular SharePoint site. So this gives you the ability to actually manage your SharePoint site security and your SharePoint site creation directly from inside of Clarity. Now, as you can see, we actually have, your document section here or your document section inside of here. Now, this gives you the ability to be able to drag and drop documents directly into SharePoint, even, let's say, from your actual drive. So if I bring my drive here, and I'm going to just go and grab a file from here. Let's see. And I'm going to just grab this document, and you can literally drag and drop files automatically in here, okay? And then obviously they'll come as part of your document section, and if you came to your library, then you can open these in Windows Explorer, you can map network drives, you can connect all of this to Outlook or export this project document list directly into Excel. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go directly into SharePoint just to give ourselves a little bit more real estate. So in this particular case, I'm directly inside of SharePoint. So now pretend that we've actually got users coming into this particular project inside of SharePoint, and they're not navigating directly into Clarity. So like I said, you have the ability to manage your documents. If you wanted to add a blog, you can add a blog. You can do all of this information automatically out of the box and utilizing SharePoint's functionality and collaboration features. But one of the parts that I really wanted to cover is to actually how do we display project data or Clarity-related data inside of SharePoint without the need of actually having to hire developers to actually do this development. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to Pages here, okay, and I'm going to view the pages for this particular site. And I'm going to add a new page. And I'm going to call this PPM docBoss demo. And I'm going to create it. So here, what we've got is basically SharePoint's layout functionality. So I'm going to change the layout of this particular page to make it into two columns. And I'm going to go on the left-hand side, and let's say we want to add, I don't know, a pie graph that displays some risk data that's related to this particular project. So I'm going to come into Insert, and I'm going to say Insert a new web part, and we're going to go to our custom web part connector, which is our PPM boss, and we're going to connect using the portletBoss. Okay? So the portletBoss is really the piece that allows us to dynamically create data connections into Clarity. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say edit this particular web part. So when I say edit this particular web part, okay, the first thing it says is select the data source. So when I click on this particular data source, it basically brings me back all of the queries that are available in that particular Clarity environment that I just came from. So we said that we wanted to do risks. So I'm going to click on risks, okay? I'm going to click apply. So here you see that it actually brings me back all of the risks for all that are related to all of the projects. So let's say I actually wanted to just bring risk data that's related to only one project. I can say filter by current project, and it's only going to bring me current project data. But in this case, what I'm going to do is, because I just created this particular project and I don't have any risks, I'm going to utilize all of these particular risks that are here. So I'm going to change the particular view type to a chart, okay? And when I change this to a chart, let's say we want to create a pie chart, and we want to use probability code. So we want to have a pie chart that says risk by probability code. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to change the title of this and say risks by probability. And I'm going to change the type of chart, okay? And you can see we've got all sorts of different types of charting components, and I'm going to add pie. So what we did here is we actually built a charting component directly into SharePoint, okay? So now I said it's a pie. What I want to do is I want to do a count of risks by probability, okay? So I'm going to say by probability. I'm going to click apply. So now you can see that it's actually generated a pie graph that's dynamically being generated from Clarity, okay, from the risks in Clarity, and provides us a list of basically a pie chart, and we can turn this into a 3D chart or anything that we want, okay. And I'm actually going to save this particular risk. But now we say, okay, well, this is all great, but I actually need some more details on these risks. I want to add something else. So let's edit this page again and add some risk details to this particular site. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to go back into Insert, and I'm going to add another web part, and we're going to go back to our same web part, and I'm going to click Add. And we're going to edit this particular web part as well. And we're going to select the same query that we had before, except we're actually going to change the view of this query. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, instead of having this view, I want to actually build an HTML table. Okay. So the first thing is, let's get rid of some of these columns that we don't actually need. So I'm going to say I don't need project, and I don't need project code. I'm going to get rid of risk code. I'm going to get rid of partition code, and I'm going to get rid of these two KPIs that we have in that query. I'm going to say OK. I click Apply just to make sure that these get removed. Okay. And now I'm going to say what I want to do is I want to change this into a data list. Okay. Now what this data list allows us to do is it basically allows us to build HTML templates in flight for this. So here I'm going to select the template. And I can use either a basic table or boxed. If I select boxed, what it's going to do is for each risk, it's going to create a box. But I'm going to just select a table style, a standard table. I'm going to click Apply Template. Now, as you see, whenever I build this Apply Template, what it does is it actually builds the HTML in flight for me. So I can take this HTML and copy it out of here. And I'm going to put it into Notepad here. Okay, and let's say we wanna be able to do, to link the risk name back into Clarity. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add a simple href tag in here, and it's going to link directly into that particular Clarity risk. So I'm going to close this tag here. And I'm going to go into Clarity and grab a link for a risk so I can actually have an incoming. So I'm just going to come into risks here. I'm going to say new. And I'm going to click Save. And I'm going to copy this particular URL from here. And when I come back in here, I'm going to say I want it to come in here, but I need to replace this particular ID with the key ID, which is the ID coming in from Clarity, so it actually maps correctly. And I take this HTML and I'm going to go back into SharePoint and paste it in there. Whoop. Okay, and you can actually see that that new risk that we've just put in here is actually here. So now I'm going to click OK. I'm done developing this particular portlet. So as I said, what this allows us to do is to actually provide, the standard, HTML syntax, which everyone in your organization has access to, or has access to developers that can actually do this. And now they can generate and build portlets and so on the fly. So I can actually come here and I can say, open this in a new tab, and it's going to bring me back to that particular risk that we've just created. Okay. So, like I said, we're not necessarily limited to. So now, let's say I want to come back into this particular one, and I only want to show items that are related to this project. So now that I actually have a risk that's associated to this particular project, I can come here and I can say, only show me data and filter by current project. I can also say, show filter area, and that basically takes every single field inside of the query extraction and allows me to filter by it. So here you can see that I've only got one risk. So if I come back here and create a new risk, I guess I have to come through here because my return URL was incorrect. I'm going to change the probability here to medium, and I'm going to say save and return. Now if I come back into this particular site and I refresh this page, oh, hang on here, I have to click OK on this one. So I was editing that particular web part. So now you can see that we actually have the two risks that we've created that are only associated to one particular project. And like I said, we're not necessarily just limited to creating stuff that's related to risks or issues or anything else. I can come here, I'm going to add a new item that's basically related. I'm going to say we want to insert a new tab and we want to add, I don't know, team components into this. So let's add a new web part. And in this case, I want to do a global one that's going to show me how many team members. I want to do a bar graph that shows me how many team members are on each project. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to say, you know, I want to select team members, click apply. And this, of course, brings me all the team members that I have in all of the environments, because I want to actually do it and group it by all of the projects. So here I want to change this particular visualization type again to a chart. And we want to do a bar. And here we also want to do a count. And we want to do the count by project code. All right, so here you can actually see how we've got all of our projects laid out here, okay? And we don't see the particular project that we're working on, and that's because we don't have any team members in this particular project. So let me come back into this project and add some team members. Make sure that click OK on this. And now you can see that we've actually got this particular project now with our bar graph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this particular page. Okay. Now I need to actually add a link so I can link to this particular dashboard. Okay. So I'm going to say edit links. And I'm going to add a link. I'm going to call this dashboard. And I'm going to copy the link from here for this particular dashboard. I click paste. Let me try it out to make sure that that link actually works. All right. I click OK. I save. And now we've actually got our full a full Clarity site, and in our site, we can navigate anywhere we want, and if we actually want to come into the dashboard section, we just click on the dashboard section. Now, we have the advantage with inside of SharePoint that you can actually associate all of this stuff that you're generating or your developers are generating, and they can associate that to a template. So every time it creates a site, it will actually add that particular template or that particular page to your template. And because we've added, so for example, in that case, in some cases you can say we'll pass the project ID as a parameter, it will actually display just data that's specific to this project. So it's like if I said, if I came here to risk, issues, and changes, which is something that we added to the template, you can actually see here all of the available values. We can expand the filter, so it gives us filtering on all of the fields. But let's say you want to filter by data that you actually have. So let's say this list is huge. Well, if you come here and you click on this little drop down, it'll bring you the data that's available. So you can filter only by the data that you actually have inside of that project. So it makes your lookups that are only related to everything that you're doing inside of that particular site. So here I can say, well, I only want to look by this view, and it'll actually filter by that particular view. So here, let me just clear this filter. And it now displays all of the data. So I'm going to come back home here, and I'm now going to get in a little bit into some questions and answers. So like I said, feel free to type in any questions that you like into the question area. I'll be answering as I go along. the first question I've got is, will the SharePoint work with Clarity on demand? Yeah, so the way this works is SharePoint actually does only web service calls to the Clarity environment, so it will work with on demand. The only thing that must happen is that from inside of SharePoint, SharePoint must be able to see the on-demand URL. So you have to make sure that they don't have a proxy limitation or something that doesn't allow you to do web service calls from inside of SharePoint directly into Clarity. Let me see if we got some more questions here. Okay, the next question I've got is, are Clarity security rights applied to limit the content displayed? So the way this particular integration works is we actually pass the user ID to the web service call. So if you wanted to do that, what we would want to do is we would want to add the security parameter in your NSQL. Because we utilize NSQL for all of our calls, then you just put the NSQL security parameter inside of your NSQL, and it'll pass that as a security parameter directly into SharePoint. So yes, the answer is yes, it can be. Okay, if executives don't have access to Clarity, is it true that they cannot link back to Clarity? Yes, so in this particular example that I provided here, where we actually link back into Clarity, you do require access for you to be able to actually see that particular risk. Obviously, if you just want to see the risks, there's really no need for them to actually go into Clarity. What you would want to do is you would just want to display the data that they want to actually see inside of a web part, or let's call it, a SharePoint portlet that you can actually manage and give them the accurate views that they want to do. Now, the beauty about SharePoint is it gives you the ability to actually do drag and drop and move stuff in flight. So let's say I wanted, I said, oh, I made a mistake. I actually want to bring the team information up here and this information from this risk down at the bottom. So I'm just going to edit this particular page, okay? I'm going to minimize these for a second just to make them easier to move around. And let me minimize this one as well. So I can literally say, I want this one to be here, and I want this one to come here. Now, if I expand these, and I save this page, now we've got a totally different view of that same exact data. Okay. The next question is, can I get a copy of this webinar for future reference? Yes, we will be providing a copy of this webinar in the next day or so. And we'll be uploading it so everyone can actually see it. The next question is, can you create these charts across multiple project data? So your only limitation is your limit to what NSQLs you write. So the answer for that is yes. I mean, there really is no limitation to what you can extract from an NSQL query. And like I said, what we did was we provided a charting mechanism that allows you to build charts similar to the way you can actually build portlets, except we utilize Clarity as a data source. Can timesheets be entered in SharePoint and updated in Clarity? Yes, and that's actually going to be one of our next webinars. We'll be doing a timesheet component that allows us to do bi-directional timesheets directly from SharePoint into Clarity. I'll just click on the link here quickly so you get a quick view of sort of what it looks like. But here basically it gives me the timesheets that I have resources that I have rights for, and I can come and I can edit their timesheets, add tasks, basically the same functionality that you have inside of Clarity you can do here. The next question is, can SharePoint filter fields be populated with Clarity list data? So I did cover that here. So anything that you want to filter by any column, like I said, all you need to do is you need to click on this particular drop-down, and it'll bring you the list data that's available for that particular data set. So like I said, it makes your lookups much smaller, and it makes your lookups just be related to exactly what's associated to your data list that comes back from within inside of Clarity. Oh, I got one more here, one last one that says, can the data provider be modified to include custom fields? The answer is yes. That goes back to the same thing. As long as you can write an NSQL for it, we will make it available so you can actually, add it to any web part that you want, and then you can modify it and manipulate it any way you want. Okay, so the next question I see is, can I put custom portlets in SharePoint? In short, yes. The answer is any custom portlet can be brought in. There just needs to be, there are a couple of syntax needs, which is basically we can't really, if we bring back null data, we actually need to specify in the query how to handle that null data. Now I know this particular webinar was only designed to be half an hour. I want to spend this time and say thanks to everybody for attending this particular webinar. Like I said, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, feel free to email me. My contact information is on the screen. You can call me or you can send me an email, and we'll gladly help you out. So if nobody has anything else, like I said, I want to thank everybody. I hope you guys can join our next webinars. We'll be doing, like I said, the next couple of webinars we'll be doing some timesheet related integrations to SharePoint, as well as task integrations between Clarity and SharePoint. Thank you very much. Thanks for attending.